What made Albert Einstein, the man who unraveled the universe, stick out his tongue at a room full of reporters? Was it a moment of mischief or a glimpse into the mind of a genius thinking far beyond the rest of us?
Who was Albert Einstein? Born in Germany, Einstein was both a gifted mathematician and a visionary physicist. He's best known for formulating the special and general theories of relativity, theories that shook the foundations of classical physics. In 1921, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics, not for relativity, but for explaining the photoelectric effect, a phenomenon that helped lay the groundwork for quantum theory. But Einstein's story doesn't end there. Facing growing threats under the Nazi regime, he fled to the United States, where his scientific influence continued, even impacting the development of atomic energy. In his final years, he pursued the elusive unified field theory, a bold attempt to combine the forces of nature into a single framework. He passed away in 1955 at the age of 76, leaving behind a legacy that still shapes science today. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in the town of Ulm in Württemberg, Germany. He grew up in a secular Jewish household. His father, Hermann, was an engineer and businessman who ran an electrical equipment factory with his brother. His mother, Pauline, managed the family home, and he had a younger sister named Maya. From an early age, Einstein stood out, not always in the way you'd expect. At school in Munich's Luitpold Gymnasium, he struggled with the rigid teaching methods and was considered a slow learner due to speech delays. But behind the quiet exterior was a curious mind. Einstein found comfort and inspiration in music, especially the violin, and more importantly, in science. One person who recognized his potential early on was Max Talmud, a Polish medical student who often dined with the family. He introduced young Einstein to science books that would spark a lifelong fascination with the mysteries of light and space. The first spark. By his teenage years, Einstein had already written his first scientific paper, The Investigation of the State of Ether in Magnetic Fields. That same curious teenager would later change the entire course of physics. When his father's business failed, the family moved to Milan, Italy, but Einstein stayed behind in Munich to finish school. Faced with compulsory military service, he dropped out and rejoined his family in Italy, unsure of his future. Despite being a school dropout, Einstein's brilliance in math and physics helped him gain a spot at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. But first, he had to finish high school, which he did in Aarau, Switzerland. There, he lived with the family of his schoolmaster, Jost Winteller, and even fell in love with Winteller's daughter, Marie. At the turn of the century, Einstein officially gave up his German citizenship and became a Swiss citizen, setting the stage for the next chapter of his revolutionary journey. Was Einstein really a genius? People often ask, what was Einstein's IQ? Well, here's the truth. No one really knows for sure. There's no official record of Einstein ever taking a modern IQ test. The most commonly used version today, the WAIS, wasn't even developed until 1955, the same year Einstein passed away. That hasn't stopped people from guessing. Experts estimate his IQ was somewhere around 160, incredibly high, but not the highest ever. For comparison, Marilyn Vos-Savant, a magazine columnist, reportedly scored 228 and once held the record for the world's highest IQ. Still, intelligence is more than just a number, and in Einstein's case, it was his curiosity, creativity, and relentless pursuit of truth that made him stand apart, not a score on paper. After earning his diploma, you'd expect Einstein to jump straight into a university job, right? Not quite. Despite his brilliance, Einstein had rubbed a few professors the wrong way, mostly by skipping classes and choosing to study on his own. As a result, he struggled to land a teaching position. Eventually, in 1902, a friend helped him get a job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. And more importantly, it gave Einstein time to think. And in that quiet little office, he thought a lot. Then came 1905, the year physicists now call his miracle year. Einstein published 4 groundbreaking papers in a top physics journal. These weren't just academic exercises. They shook the entire field of science. One explained the photoelectric effect, helping launch quantum theory. Another explored Brownian motion, proving that atoms really do exist. A third introduced his special theory of relativity. And the fourth revealed the now famous formula E equals mc squared, showing that a tiny bit of mass can be converted into enormous energy. Not bad for a 25-year-old patent clerk. When most people hear the name Albert Einstein, one thing pops into their heads: E equals mc squared. That simple yet powerful equation, E equals mc squared, explained how mass could be converted into energy. It didn't just change physics, it changed the world. Einstein's discoveries laid the groundwork for atomic energy and eventually the atomic bomb, although he never intended his theories to be used for destruction. But his brilliance wasn't limited to one formula. Einstein's mind cracked open mysteries of the universe that puzzled scientists for centuries, and no discovery had a bigger impact than his revolutionary theory of relativity. The theory that bent time. In 1905, the same miracle year when he was still a patent clerk, Einstein published a paper that rewrote the laws of physics. It was titled On the Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies, and it introduced the special theory of relativity. His idea was radical. Space and time weren't separate things. They were woven together into a single fabric, something he called space-time. It blew open the door to questions no one had even thought to ask. What happens when you approach the speed of light? Does time slow down? Can space bend? And 10 years later, in 1915, Einstein took things even further, with the general theory of relativity. This time he tackled gravity, not as a force like Newton believed, but as the bending of space-time itself. Planets don't just orbit stars because of invisible tugs. They move along the curves of a warped cosmic landscape. To Einstein, this wasn't just a theory. It was the crown jewel of his life's work.
A global science icon is born. In 1919, British astronomers Sir Arthur Eddington and Sir Frank Dyson observed a total solar eclipse. What they saw confirmed what Einstein had predicted. Light bent around massive objects, just like his theories said it would. Overnight, Einstein became a global celebrity, a genius, a symbol of modern science. And his theories didn't stop at stardom. They still shape our lives today. The same math that explains black holes and distant galaxies also helps your GPS guide you through city streets with pinpoint accuracy. But even Einstein got it wrong sometimes. His equations actually predicted that the universe must either be expanding or contracting. But he didn't believe it. He was convinced the cosmos was static, unchanging. So he added a fudge factor, a cosmological constant to keep everything still. Years later, astronomer Edwin Hubble proved that the universe is expanding. Einstein called his earlier assumption the greatest blunder of his life. The two eventually met in 1931 at Mount Wilson Observatory, where the expanding universe was being measured.
It was a moment of humility, even for a man who had reshaped reality itself. Fast forward to 2018, decades after Einstein's death. A team of scientists tracked a star named S2 as it whipped around the massive black hole at the center of our galaxy. Just as Einstein predicted, its light stretched and shifted from blue to red as gravity warped the space-time around it. The star's speed? Over 25 million kilometers per hour. A breathtaking confirmation of a theory written more than a century earlier. Einstein didn't just theorize the invisible, he revealed the architecture of the universe. And to this day, scientists continue to prove he was right.
In 1905, Albert Einstein wrote a paper that would echo through time. Literally, it introduced a simple but explosive idea. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass multiplied by the speed of light squared. This wasn't just math, it was a revelation. It meant that a tiny amount of matter could be transformed into a massive amount of energy. It was the equation behind atomic power, and eventually, the atom bomb. Einstein's ideas were so ahead of their time that even fellow physicists were stunned. One of his greatest supporters was Max Planck, a legend in quantum theory. With Planck's backing, Einstein's reputation soared. He became a global academic icon, eventually serving as the director of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics, now known as the Max Planck Institute. Einstein's mind had cracked the code of the universe, and soon the world would begin to listen.
Winning the Nobel Prize, but not for what you think. In 1921, Albert Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics. But wait, not for relativity. His groundbreaking theories on space and time were still too controversial for the Nobel Committee. Instead, he was honored for his work on the photoelectric effect, which explained how light can knock electrons out of atoms, a discovery that helped ignite quantum mechanics. Due to bureaucratic delays, Einstein received the prize a year later. But when it came time for his speech, he didn't stick to the safe topic of photons. He talked about relativity anyway. Albert Einstein's genius wasn't confined to equations, but when it came to relationships, things were far more complicated. In 1903, he married Mileva Maric, a brilliant Serbian physics student he met in Zurich. Their bond was intellectual and emotional, though Einstein's family strongly opposed the relationship due to her background. Still, the two grew close, exchanging letters filled with scientific ideas and dreams. They had 3 children, a daughter, Lieserl, born before marriage, whose fate remains a mystery, a son, Hans Albert, who became a respected engineer, and Edward, their younger son, who later battled schizophrenia. Despite their early connection, the marriage deteriorated. By 1919, they divorced, and Mileva suffered a breakdown. In the settlement, Einstein agreed to give her any future Nobel Prize money, which, of course, he later won. But there was another twist. During his marriage to Mileva, Einstein began an affair with his cousin, Elsa Lowenthal. They married the same year he divorced Mileva. Einstein's second marriage was also marked by distance, not just emotionally, but philosophically. He continued to see other women throughout, and when Elsa passed away in 1936, Einstein remained unmarried for the rest of his life. Behind the equations and the accolades was a man, brilliant, complicated, and deeply human. In his 40s, Einstein wasn't just traveling through the universe with his theories. He was literally traveling the world. His journeys were captured in 2 volumes of personal journals, later published as The Travel Diaries of Albert Einstein. The first volume, released in 2018, chronicles a 5.5-month voyage through the Far East, Palestine, and Spain. It began in 1922, when Einstein and his second wife, Elsa, set sail from Marseille, France. They passed through the Suez Canal, stopped in Sri Lanka, explored Singapore, Hong Kong, and Shanghai before arriving in Japan. They returned to Germany in early 1923, stopping through Palestine and Spain along the way. The second volume, published in 2023, offers a look at his 1925 tour through Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil, where he gave lectures and absorbed the vibrant local cultures. But here's the twist. Einstein's private writings weren't always flattering. In fact, many of his comments about the people he encountered were shockingly prejudiced, especially considering his later public stance against racism. In one 1922 entry, he described the people of Hong Kong as industrious, filthy, lethargic. A disappointing contradiction from a man who would later fight for civil rights and equality. Even geniuses have their blind spots, and history remembers all of them. As Nazi Germany rose in the early 1930s, Einstein saw the writing on the wall. Jewish academics were being silenced, books were being burned, and Einstein, a vocal Jew and outspoken critic of the regime, had a target on his back. In 1933, he accepted a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. That move changed everything. It wasn't just a new job, it was a new life. He left Europe behind, and with it, the rising storm of fascism. Einstein quickly found in America something he'd rarely experienced before: intellectual freedom. He admired the country's meritocracy, where ideas mattered more than background. By 1935, he had permanent residency. And in 1940, Albert Einstein officially became a U.S. citizen. In his new home, he returned to his great passion, searching for a unified field theory, a single equation that could explain all the forces of nature. But when World War II erupted, Einstein didn't just stand on the sidelines. He supported military efforts, even auctioning off priceless manuscripts to raise funds for the U.S. Navy, a rare turn for a man known as a pacifist. Behind the chalkboard, Einstein was always thinking, but when the world needed him, he acted too. In 1939, with war on the horizon, Einstein and fellow physicist Leo Szilard made a fateful decision. They wrote a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, warning him that Nazi Germany might be building an atomic bomb and urging the U.S. to begin its own research before it was too late. That letter would spark the creation of the Manhattan Project, America's top-secret nuclear weapons program. But here's the twist. Einstein was never part of it. Despite inspiring the urgency, Einstein was denied a security clearance. His pacifist beliefs, socialist leanings, and open criticism of authority didn't sit well with FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, who deeply distrusted him. So, when scientists like J. Robert Oppenheimer and his team worked in Los Alamos, Einstein was deliberately left out. In fact, he had no idea the U.S. planned to drop atomic bombs on Japan. When he heard about the bombing of Hiroshima, he reportedly sighed, the world is not ready for it." Haunted by the consequences of his warning, Einstein dedicated the rest of his life to preventing nuclear war. In 1946, he co-founded the Emergency Committee of Atomic Scientists and published essays urging world leaders to control, not unleash, the power he had helped uncover. After World War II, Einstein returned to the great puzzle that had always captivated him: unifying the laws of physics. While most scientists turned their focus toward quantum theory, Einstein walked a lonelier path, diving deeper into concepts like time travel, wormholes, black holes, and the birth of the universe. He wasn't chasing headlines anymore. He was chasing the truth. In the final decade of his life, Einstein withdrew from public life. He stayed in Princeton, working quietly, thinking deeply, and sharing ideas with a close circle of colleagues. He once said, "I am a horse for single harness, not cut out for tandem or teamwork." And so he worked alone until the end. Behind the equations and theories lived a man full of quirks and a powerful sense of justice. In the late 1940s, Einstein joined the NAACP, drawing parallels between the persecution of Jews in Germany and the treatment of Black Americans. He befriended civil rights leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois and Paul Robeson, and famously declared in a 1946 speech, "Racism is a disease of white people." But he wasn't all serious. Einstein was obsessed with sleep, insisting on 10 hours a night and sneaking naps throughout the day. He had a quirky trick, holding a spoon or pencil as he drifted off. When it dropped, the sound would wake him just before falling into deep sleep, the perfect moment for creative sparks. He refused to wear socks, annoyed by holes caused by his big toe. And when reporters cornered him at his 72nd birthday party, demanding one more smile, he stuck out his tongue instead. That moment, captured by photographer Arthur Sasse, became one of the most iconic images of the 20th century. Einstein loved it, so much he ordered copies to give his friends. One signed version sold for $125,000 in 2017.
On April 18, 1955, Albert Einstein, the man who unraveled the secrets of time and space, passed away at the age of 76. Just the day before, he had been working on a speech to celebrate Israel's 7th anniversary, but suddenly he collapsed from a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm. Taken to the hospital in Princeton, Einstein refused surgery. He had made peace with the idea of death. "I want to go when I want," he said. "It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go. I will do it elegantly." And so he did. According to reports, Einstein's last words were spoken in German, but the nurse on duty didn't understand the language. Whatever he said in that final moment was lost forever. After news of his death broke, photographers and journalists rushed to the hospital. But one man, Life magazine's Ralph Morse, had another idea. He quietly slipped into Einstein's untouched office, offering a bottle of bourbon to gain access. There he captured the last photos of the genius's workspace, just as he left it. Later that day, Einstein's body was quietly cremated in Trenton, New Jersey. Only Morse was present, but honoring a request from Einstein's son, Life magazine never published the photos. During the autopsy, pathologist Thomas Stoltz Harvey made a controversial decision. He removed Einstein's brain, hoping to preserve it for scientific study. He didn't have the family's permission, but some say Einstein had expressed interest in such research during his life. Today, Einstein's brain, or what remains of it, resides at Princeton University Medical Center. Other pieces are preserved at museums like the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia, where thin slices of his brain are on public display. In 1999, Canadian scientists found something fascinating. Einstein's inferior parietal lobe, the part of the brain linked to math, 3D reasoning, and spatial awareness, was 15% wider than average. It may not be the whole story behind his genius, but it's one more piece of the puzzle. Even after death, Einstein's story has never stopped inspiring the world.
He's been the subject of countless books, including Einstein, His Life and Universe by Walter Isaacson, and The World as I See It, a powerful collection of his own reflections. Hollywood, too, has brought him to life. In 1985, he inspired The Professor in Insignificance, a quirky film imagining a night with Einstein, Marilyn Monroe, and others. In 1994, Walter Matthau played a whimsical version of him in IQ, matchmaking his niece with a mechanic played by Tim Robbins. He even popped up in oddball comedies like Young Einstein and I Killed Einstein, Gentlemen. But the most authentic portrayal came in 2017. The National Geographic series Genius starred Jeffrey Rush as the older Einstein and Johnny Flynn as his younger self. Directed by Ron Howard, the series dove deep into the man behind the myth. And in 2023, Einstein returned to the spotlight in Christopher Nolan's epic Oppenheimer, portrayed by Tom Conti, a quiet but powerful presence in the story of the atomic bomb. Albert Einstein didn't just redefine science. He reshaped reality, challenged power, stood up for justice, and never stopped asking, why? He reminded us that imagination is more important than knowledge, that curiosity fuels revolution, and that sometimes even the most brilliant minds walk alone, not because they must, but because the path ahead is one only they can see. This was Albert Einstein, not just a name in a textbook, but a mind that changed the world.
Einstein's story reminds us that one mind, fueled by curiosity and courage, can change the course of history. If this journey through his life inspired you, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories, and share this video with someone who loves science or history. Drop a comment below. What's your favorite Einstein quote or idea? And which famous person's life story should we explore next? Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.